Alan, always good to speak with you. We should make the point that this was the outgoing flight from Dusseldorf to Barcelona. The flight which returned was the one that crashed. This flight was filled with passengers. If he's playing around with the altitude, how is it that no one on board actually noticed? Wouldn't they feel something?
Well, no, because the controllers had directed him to do a controlled descent. So, John, I think it was just unfortuitous that the captain happened to be out of the cockpit when the controllers authorized or directed this descent down to 21,000 feet, I think it was. So that allowed him to, I hate to use the word ratchet or the phrase ratchet up his courage, but it looked to me like he took advantage of the captain's absence on the way to Dusseldorf to rehearse this nefarious plot.
Do you think that this could be anything other than a rehearsal? Could he have actually been trying to crash the plane on this outgoing flight?
Well, if he was going to do that, he would have had to lock the captain out, presumably. Even though the captain's in the back of the aircraft, he would have still had to prevented him from re-entering. So maybe the captain, we don't know the details, but maybe the captain returned quicker than Lubitz thought, and he was interrupted in his plot to do it on the way to Barcelona.
What does this actually tell you, though, about the state of mind of Lubitz and his determination and the planning that eventually went into crashing the plane?
Well, you know, we've seen this before. We can go through a number of the suicides, of the classic Egypt Air crash. These are, or the Silk Air crash, or even in America, we had the FedEx attempted crash. These are all by pilots that had a grudge against their company. So for some reason, Lubitz wasn't just satisfied with committing suicide. He wanted to, I guess, do a mass murder, which would be an ultimate calamity, terrible calamity and atrocity for Germanwings and Lufthansa. You know, he paid a lot of money to go through that Germanwings program. It runs about 70,000 euros now, if you go on their website, and he was presumably paying it back $300 or 300 euros a month. So I'm not saying this was his only motivation, but remember, he had a tremendous training debt, and he thought he was going to be out of the cockpit, grounded, and just the thought of having to go back to being a flight attendant, or his previous job before that was the fries man at a Burger King in Germany. So this guy may have really flipped out because of the thought of what was happening to him, and blame the Germanwings company.
And with that in mind, does that then get us back to that question that we've been talking a lot about earlier, about having someone in that state of mind, in the cockpit, behind the controls, and really no one actually being aware of what's going on, you know, in his mind?
Well, John, we're not quite sure that. The investigation is still ongoing. One of the training concepts that, well, two things I proposed when I worked for the FAA and the NTSB. When I was with NTSB, that's National Transportation Safety Board, I recommended a type of training called crew resource management. This empowers everybody, all the aviators, to speak up if you see anybody that you even think is going to make a mistake. It was designed originally to prevent accidents, but I think we may want to revisit that type of training and expand it to also look for other kinds of inappropriate behavior and encourage other pilots or other crew members, could be a flight attendant, could be a dispatcher on the ground, to report this. So it'll be interesting to see what the French investigators come up with. Another recommendation I made was to establish a cadre of what I called aviation behavioral examiners. You know, the medical doctors that give these flight physicals are not trained in behavior.